Let's break down the figure drawings of Chris Glib and see what we can learn for our own drawings. Hi, my name's Kenzo and this is Love Life Drawing. You can see Chris's figure drawings on his Instagram account, which is Chris Glib Art. Big thanks to Chris for giving me permission to make this video and for answering my questions about his drawings and his drawing process. He draws with fineliner pens, and a lot of the drawings are 10 to 20 minutes with some quicker ones thrown in too. And the thing about Chris's drawings, as we'll see, is that you shouldn't just learn from what's there, but also from what's not there. Fineliner pens create lines of relatively uniform weight. There isn't too much scope for varying the thickness or the intensity of the marks, like you could with charcoal or pencil or a brush or a pastel. He might use a couple of pen thicknesses, but that's all the variation that he has. He could try to work around the limitations of the pens. For example, he could use a complex web of cross-hatching to show the gradual change in the tones across the figure, but he doesn't work around them. Instead, he leans into his material's characteristics, and that's where his drawings become so fun. He draws contour lines that describe the big shapes in the figure, and those include the outline of the figure as well as lines within the figure that tell us about the major changes in the planes. In other words, when this part faces this way and this part faces that way, he gives us a line to explain where those two planes meet each other. Drawings become so enthralling when there's missing information for you to fill in, a bit like how if you over-explain a joke, it's not funny anymore. Your mind has to make some of the connections. Here we only need to understand one edge of the leg. The rest of its volume we can fill in with our mind's eye. The edge that we do get though needs to reflect the big shapes in the leg. With this hand, he's giving us the outline of the whole thing, and then he's adding the plane of the back of the hand so it becomes 3D. The outline and this shadow shape tell us where the first knuckles start and the second knuckles end. And because we can see that, we don't need lines separating the fingers. A little bit of negative space to explain that this index finger is different to the others. And then our minds can do the rest. There are other changes in the planes, other changes in the tones, but they're not top priority, and so they don't get lines. Now before we continue, I just wanted to mention we've got a great newsletter which you can sign up for at lovelifedrawing.com. We'll send useful tips and cool drawings every few weeks. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We have lots more cool stuff planned for the next few months. He keeps things looking clean and crisp by only using single parallel hatching, not cross hatching or contour hatching. He usually only gives himself one density of hatching in a drawing. He doesn't have more dense hatching for darker bits and thinner hatching for lighter bits to help explain more to our eyes about the figure. Since the shading's all at one level, it's not going to be gently transitioning from dark to light. It'll have a clear shape with an edge, and he'll often draw that edge to nicely contain the hatching. And that edge will also tell us more about the form. So actually, even the hatched shading part isn't essential. In some drawings, even the hatching is left out. Ultimately, it's only the most important shapes of the parts of the figure important to the composition that really need to be in the drawing, and if those are right, it's going to look good. Even the light and dark aren't essential. It's almost like Chris is pushing the limits of how little he needs to explain to still capture the thing about the figure and the pose that he loves. As with the rest of the figure, he's minimalist with his lines in the hair. He has lines to show the big shapes, and then sometimes a few lines to explain the texture. So now we can see the shape and the texture, and we can fill in the rest. Some artists will underemphasize non-focal areas. They'll reduce the contrast and the detail, and then bring attention to focal areas with more contrast in value, contrast in warm and cool color, sharp edges, more detail. But with Chris's minimalist style, he can leave out parts of the pose that aren't interesting entirely. So what you see in the drawing is the focal point, and even then, a lot of that you have to fill in with your mind's eye. At Love Life Drawing, we often talk about varying line weights. It's great not to have a monotonous line, but to have thinner lines and thicker lines, even in the outline. For example, it's nice to use a lighter weight line on edges where light is falling to make that edge feel lighter. But like I said earlier, Chris is more concerned with form than light, and he likes a powerful, clean container to wrap the form in. So he often uses a thick, uniform line around the figure, and then will use thinner weight pen for contour lines within the figure, and it really works to give that graphic effect. Now, he mentioned to me that one of his favorite artists and sources of inspiration is ALPHONSE MUCHA, or I don't know how you pronounce that, but you can see that influence, flat and clean with crisp edges. Now, I don't mean that the figures are not 3D, they are. And I don't mean that there's no subtlety, because there really is. I mean that volume and subtlety are delivered in a clean and graphic style. Now, I went back through Chris's Instagram feed all the way back to the beginning in 2015, and his drawings then were good, but they're nowhere near the level that he's at now. And that was just 3 years ago. And here's a telling quote from one of his posts where his life drawing class was off for a week. He practices consistently. That's where the confidence comes from. The confidence that he needs to be able to draw a figure in a few lines directly with a fineliner. Step 1. Accept the possibility of failure. Don't use a pencil underlayer. Don't build layers and correct. Don't try to force a good drawing. You don't need all of that if you've accepted that the drawing could fail. Just go for it, directly with pen, and see what happens. That's the only way to get that freshness of line that he achieves. Observe the figure well. Take a moment to map out the drawing, alignments, angles, and distances between important points in the figure in your mind. And then step 3, put down bold lines based on what you observed. Put them down like you believe in them, like you mean them. They should be lines that tell you only the most important things about the most important shapes in the pose. Take a step back every now and then to ensure the scale is okay, to ensure you're still mapping out the whole drawing. And finally, if it all goes wrong, don't worry. When you told yourself at the beginning that it was okay to fail, you have to have meant it. But if it goes well, you can probably rejoice. So what do you guys think of Chris's drawings? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the like button, and check out lovelifedrawing.com for more tutorials, our newsletter, and loads of other useful stuff. Thank you for watching.